All right, Miss Lauren, nice to have you here. Welcome to AdviseHer, and thanks for being on the show. For everyone's background, I know Lauren since high school, so we've been best friends for a very long time. But yeah, I'll pass it over to you, Lauren. Give some background as to like where you grew up, where you currently work, and then we'll dive into like how you got there.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you and have any excuse to. Like Phoebe said, we grew up together. So I grew up in northern New Jersey. Currently, right now, I work for Stryker Orthopedics. So it's a medical device company. It's a very big company, so likely if any of your listeners hopefully have not, but have been in the hospital or touched healthcare at some point, you've probably seen the yellow stretchers. Those are Stryker stretchers. They're hospital beds. I specifically work in the orthopedic implants. So if you think of, again, hopefully this never happens, but if somebody gets into a car accident or breaks some kind of bone in their body and you go to the operating room to get it fixed, I help develop the implants to fix it. So any nails, plates, external fixation to fix any breaking in like a traumatic incident, we do.
Nice. I
Yeah.
forgot all like the medical terms already. We're gonna hear them all
We're gonna
today.
dive in.
Also, when you said stretcher, it reminded me I was watching like there's a new season of Always Sunny in Philadelphia out, and
Okay.
I mean I don't even really I like the show, but I never really watched it. But last
Yeah.
night they were fake being EMTs, and it was
Oh.
really super.
Anytime you see a yellow stretcher, it's Stryker.
I don't think I've ever seen like a yellow stretcher,
Okay,
but
well,
now I'll be on the lookout.
that means we're not doing a very good job in California.
I just had to drive through like certain parts of San Francisco. I'll probably see a yellow stretcher. Okay, cool. So thanks for taking us through a little bit of your background at
Yeah.
Stryker and then where you grew up. Let's start with like high school. So obviously I know because we started at the same high school. So we went to Holy Angels, all girls school. Can you talk about like what you studied a little bit and then if anything kind of piqued your interest in high school, whether you had classes that were super interesting to you that you kind of followed through on, or if you had internships or high school jobs?
Yeah, so I would say I probably got more like in tuned into like what I wanted to do, to be quite honest, in college, I would say. I think growing up around here, my interests weren't necessarily in medical devices at all, but I knew that I liked advertising, I liked marketing. I feel like whenever I see something like Apple or Google or some cool company like launching a product, I get drawn in as the consumer. So I really like what goes into it, right? Like even shopping and looking around at department stores and stuff, I really like how people come up with that creative side to selling a product. So I knew I always liked it, or at least I was always drawn to it. So when I went to college, I wanted to be a business major. I was pretty good. I knew that that's like what I liked to do and what I was kind of good at. I knew I wanted to go into marketing for that reason. So I would say more when I was in college is when I tried out different internships, like you were saying. So I did an internship at Conde Nast, which was for anybody who doesn't know what Conde Nast is, it's the company that owns like Vanity Fair, Vogue, The New Yorker, like all the big conglomerate like fashion magazines. And I love fashion. I love clothing, jewelry, shoes, etc. So I was like, that would be perfect. Like that marries the advertising and the creative stuff that I like combined with like what my personal passions are. And so I did an internship there. It was like right in the city in Times Square and I really did enjoy it. I really did like the marketing of it. Like I liked meeting with vendors and meeting with different people and like building those relationships and like creating a concept out of it. So I knew that that was probably what I liked to do. I think their internships are like the most important thing you can do because at least you can like taste it without being married to something too much.
Yeah, like a few months.
Right. So then I tried medical devices as another internship. So I had an internship at Stryker where I work now. I had one in high school, or sorry, in high school, but also in college after I was at Conde Nast. And it was like polar opposite. There's no glitz, no glamour. For the most part, you're not really advertising to consumers. You're really advertising to surgeons and hospitals, nursing staff, EMTs, even depending on the part of Stryker that you're working in. But at the end of the day, when I was looking at trying to decide what I wanted to do after college, it meant something a little bit different to like advertise something to save somebody's life as it was to like advertise, and I've said this to you a million times, like advertise a Rolex for somebody to buy. It
Fair.
just felt like the mission and values of selling a medical device just kind of hit different. And I
Yeah.
figured you can always like wear the clothes to work. You don't necessarily need to sell them all the time too. So
Well,
I
I
get
mean, it's an interesting point because, like, you say you like fashion. I know you like fashion.
yeah.
You love clothes, the glamour, and like the color and things like that. But it's one of those things where maybe that passion showed you like a side of marketing, but you decided, it's not like you can still have that passion outside of work. Like, you
Mhm.
still love clothes and fashion, but like, that's not what you necessarily went into.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. Like you're saying, I think it's a good point when you think about like what you want to do afterwards. Like, you always want to do what you're passionate in. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe I'll go into fashion because that's what I really like to do. Eventually, I came around to I can make developing the products I make or like creating the advertising campaigns for the products that I make really like sexy and cool and something that I would like to consume too. But I can bridge that into a different avenue, and I don't necessarily need to do that for my full-time career. And it kind of
Yeah.
satisfies the itch both ways too.
Yeah, true, true. I
Mhm.
feel like there's also probably a big difference in pay, like the fashion industry, unless you're like at the top where you're like,
Right. Right. And like that's something else that was important to me too, to like make a good salary and like
yeah.
know a career trajectory and also like stability too. I think
Mhm.
sometimes you don't talk, like we always talk about like taking risks, but sometimes like stability is a nice thing too. And like medical device industry, as terrible as it is, like accidents aren't going down, knee and hip replacements, like we're all just getting them done younger because we're more active.
Yeah.
People are still going into hospitals. So like that industry across the board, not only Stryker, but like all of it, it's been going up for years. So it's also nice to like have some kind of job security with your industry too, I think is cool.
Yeah. People are definitely living longer. I feel like if you read in the news, they're always trying to figure out, there's always news about like nursing homes. What do we do? And all this stuff. I'm like, we are living a long time. Like by the
Yeah,
time
right.
we get to that age, I'm gonna be like, wow, this is
I know.
okay, so you went to Wake Forest
Hmm.
after high school, obviously, in
Yep.
North Carolina.
Yep.
And so, which year did you have that internship at Conde Nast, and then how did you get it?
When I was in college, I had an internship junior, sophomore, and junior year. My sophomore year is when I was at Stryker, so that was my first internship in college. And then my second internship was for class credit because I was in the business school, and that was at Conde
Classic.
Nast. Yeah, classic
We're
college.
gonna have you just work here for free and
Yeah,
that.
truly.
Yeah.
And so the second one, like right before my senior year, was at Conde Nast. And so how I got them at Stryker, I had known some people here. So admittedly, I come from like a very long line of like medical device industry folks. My dad worked in medical devices. My grandpa did. Kind of everybody has in my family. So I knew the industry really well. So I did know people at Stryker that I was able to get in touch with and got an internship that way. Since I was an intern versus now, because it's intern season, we all know that in the summertime, there's like a ton of interns now, and it's really like built up the program, which I think is really cool. Back when I was an intern, it was still kind of not as like a rigorous like
Yeah.
course to get into. So I did that, and then through Condé Nast, I used my own networks there too. I think the time that I was an intern at Condé Nast, the things came out about it being like a terrible place to work because they
Oh,
abused
really?
the interns. Do you remember? It was like not Devil Wears Prada era, but it was like right after where there was like articles being written about like the interns literally being treated like trash, like
Really?
getting coffee and like just working 24/7, like barely making minimum wage. And so they got rid of the internship program like maybe 2 years before I wanted to do it. But I knew somebody, or my family knew somebody at Condé Nast, so I called them and said I really want to work here and like I'll work really hard. I barely have to get paid. I just want to see what it's like and just try my best. I wasn't in it for the money or anything else, and so I was hired kind of as a temp, a one-off intern, and they didn't treat me like trash. Like they treated me actually really nicely. I had a great team when I was there. Like they didn't use and abuse me. I maybe got coffee because I volunteered too. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
really
you're like at that point, like I just want to do
yeah.
something. Like
Right. The pay was terrible, but like I kind of expected that.
I feel like internship is whatever. Like my first one was paid technically.
Yeah, right. You're in college.
Yeah.
So that's how did it. I kind of used my own networks. I know at Wake Forest there's like banking and like Pepsi to get into, but I didn't want to do either of those things. And so I kind of used my own networks and like my own family connections to break into the industry, which I think no matter
Yeah.
what it is, as long as if you know somebody who knows somebody, it's not a bad thing to utilize. I think a lot of times we get scared to like put yourself out there. You don't really want to bother anybody. But me looking at the places I'm in now, a lot of people come to me that want internships or want career advice and stuff like that. And it's never a nuisance. It's like truly the highlight of my day when I get emails or phone calls saying like, hey, I really want to break into this industry. Can you help me? And I love doing it because it reminds me of when I wanted to do it. So I guess like my biggest takeaway there is you're not being a nuisance. Like we love to get like fresh talent, young people, and it makes us feel good to talk to you. So it's not a nuisance. I don't feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like if someone's willing to put themselves out there, especially in a maybe like a different or creative way too, it's like you're taking the first step. It's hard in high school or in college to
Yeah.
like understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just got to go for it. Like, I've never asked you this question, but I guess for us being in or growing up in northern New Jersey, it was nice because we're so close to the city and like it was commutable in a sense. But if other students at Wake Forest, let's say, had an internship at Pepsi or something along those lines, would they stay in North Carolina or would they, or
That's a
where
good
was the internship?
Yeah, so a lot of the internships, they like move and stay in some kind of like subsidized housing for the internship.
Okay.
So I know like a lot of interns that I went to school with who like had internships in the city, they would find like 3 month lease in the city to live there for the internship. And usually the company has like some kind of subsidy to help them afford that. I know here we have a local college around here, Ramapo College, that does housing for internships. So a lot of the interns here aren't from here. They're from across the country and they stay at the college and then just drive here every day.
It's
So
giving Duke golf camp vibes.
it's giving Duke golf camp, but Duke was a beautiful campus because
Yeah,
you
it was too
brought a fan with us.
fun. Oh God, that's the good old days. Okay, so let's talk about your first job. So
Okay.
you had the Stryker internship, and then you had the Conde Nast internship. So Stryker was junior year going into senior year summer, or I mean, Conde Nast was.
Conde Nast was, yeah.
Okay, so then you went back your senior year, and then talk about how you started trying to figure out what jobs you wanted to apply to, and then what the application process was like.
Yes. So I feel like, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but if you didn't have a job going into Christmas of your senior year, you were like something was wrong with you. Like you needed to have a job going into your senior year or going into like the final semester of your senior year. And I remember because I wasn't going into banking, I wasn't going into any of those industries where you got a job offer basically when you left your internship. So I started my senior year in the business school with all these investment banking kids, and I was like, I am a loser. Like I need to have a job offer. So at the time I was at a fair, like a job fair or something like that, what they had at school. And I got hooked up with Oracle.
Mm,
And I was going to be like an inside sales person. I don't even know what that means, but it was a job and I could sign something. And to be honest, I signed it because I was like, it's safe. I got something. Like, I know what I'm going to do after college. I was going to move to Boston. Yeah, like I was set. So I felt good that I had something, but I was just kind of like jumping at the first thing that came at me. And it didn't feel like anything I wanted to do. The only reason why I kind of signed it is that I did know I wanted to go into some kind of sales, whether it was advertising sales or medical device sales, something. I was like, it's good to start your career selling what you're gonna future like market or whatever. So that's why I kind of took the job. And then as the year went on, I was still exploring other options. And one of my good girlfriends in college, actually, her dad had worked for J&J, so Johnson and Johnson. their medical device division. And I admittedly, like I said, my dad was in medical devices, my grandpa was. My dad had worked for Stryker, and he had been retired at the time, but I had a big resistance to working for Stryker, not because, like, my dad did really well at this company. He worked here for a really long time. And I always admired my dad, but I never wanted to be known as so-and-so's daughter. And granted, my last name's Williams, so like I guess that's a hard connection, but still, I didn't
Like popular. It's not, you know, you never know.
want to be so-and-so's daughter. So even though Stryker would have been great to work for, I was like, I just like go straight into it. So my friend's dad had worked for Johnson & Johnson, and he said that there was a really good like rotational program for 6 kids who were graduating university. That they taught you kind of like the ins and outs of medical devices. And I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. So I applied, I got the role, I got the call, and they said, okay, the role is yours, but you're moving to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I said, what?
Go Bengals. Isn't that their NFL team?
Probably. Yeah, probably. And I said, I guess I'm moving to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so I turned down the Oracle job in Boston. And I signed this role. I liked it because it was like hard to get. There was only a few people who got in, so I was like, it seems like more of what I want to do. It was for the company's called Ethicon, and so I moved to Cincinnati, and I was there for 14 months. It was like a rotational program, so you did like some selling, some medical education, some sales, medical education, and marketing. And the program was a great experience. Like, I think it's like the best thing to do to like, for people to know what medical devices is all about, especially when you're 22 years old. And I feel like right now, and maybe it's just being here in this industry, like everybody wants to go into med device sales. Like you're going to get rich in med device sales, but who really knows what that is? So it was like good to get like to figure out kind of more about it.
I feel like if I didn't know you growing up or your family, like I would never know what medical device sales was. Because like New York is so finance focused that, yeah, it's totally different. But actually with social media these days, you see it almost more. Like people day in the life medical sales rep. You see it all the time. So I bet
that gang with all the like reps with their red like little boots on.
And they wake up it literally reminds me of you because they wake up at 4 a.m. and they have a drive to a hospital and all this type of stuff. Oh, and then there's also the girl on Southern Charm.
Yes, she was in med devices. Yes.
Okay. I remember watching that. I was like, that's so funny. That's literally what Lauren does. But
well, it's so interesting because like nobody realizes like the industry that it is unless like think about it. You're in a hospital and how do they have all these products?
Yeah.
How do they
everything is sales.
Yeah, like, everything is sales.
Sold that over some other company that could be selling it.
Totally.
So there's always someone there selling it.
Yeah, or like hospitals can't afford all these products. How do they get it? Because of consignment they do with different companies. Like, how come surgery is getting better year over year? Because we're developing new products to help it. Why do we use robots? Because there's companies making the robots. Like, there's a whole industry behind it that you don't realize unless you're kind of in it.
Yeah, it's not the doctor making the robot. Like,
no.
Someone's literally there being like, you should do this and let me teach you how to do it.
Correct. So yep. That's the whole industry.
Whole thing.
Whole thing.
Wait, I was gonna ask real quick. So I know you said for Johnson & Johnson, you knew someone whose like family had worked there, but you were in a sorority in college, right?
I was, yes.
Okay. Do you see a big network with that, or when you were applying for jobs in college, and then now that you're out of college, is there like a network with your sorority still?
That's a very, very good question, and I think that there is. I was a Tri Delta at Wake Forest, and I think that there 100% is a network there, especially like if you're going into niche industries and that you might not know a lot of people. I think that network is really strong. I also think one of, like, obviously other than you, my other closest friend in the world was a Tri Delta. She was my big sister in my sorority. But I think depending on where you are in the country, I think it also pulls a little bit more weight. I know when I was in Cincinnati, I was like looking at who else were Tri Delts in Cincinnati just to like make friends there or like see who else was there, and people kind of led with oh, you graduated college, what sorority were you in? So I think it could. I live in New York City and people don't really talk about sororities here, to be quite honest with you. And maybe I'm too old that sororities aren't even a thing that come up anymore. I think like the friend who introduced me to Johnson and Johnson, she was in my sorority. So I think there is like a network, whether it's a sorority or whether it's just like your personal network yourself of clubs or sports you do. It's always, always, always important to tap into anybody that you can, I think.
Yeah, just like have a community of sense.
Yeah.
Because also then you're just opened up to like, okay, let's say your sorority girls started graduating and you could see what kind of jobs they
Right.
graduated into and what they took.
You can see different industries, like what else, if you
Yeah.
really like, I like to look at people and say like, wow, they really look like they have it all together, or they look like they're doing something cool. And it's important to like look outward and see if you would like that kind of lifestyle too, I
Yeah.
think.
I never really thought about it because I feel like at Fordham, so we didn't have Greek life, but a lot of the times my friends were just from like girls I lived in the dorm with that were close by, and then people from my classes. But that's not the type of community where I could just, sure, any of my friends I could ask, but I wish, looking back, there's probably a better like sense of that community if I joined like a club or something like that, where it's more of a professional setting, so you could like try and network within that club a little bit more. Like if you meet someone in a class, you're not going to ask them all these questions and then be like, oh, do you know someone in XYZ industry or whatever?
Agree with you. And like it's cool to be a part of a, like you said, a club in whatever the club that you join is.
Yeah.
And keep that like in the back of your mind too, I think is important, like regardless of what you're in, like keep that in mind to hear what other people are doing or what people's parents do too, and see if
Yeah.
that's something that would interest you because they want to help you. At the end of the day, like that's what I think is like really important too. Like people who know you and can vouch for your character, like they want to help you.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, so I know there's a lot of different medical terms
Yes.
for medical device sales, but when you interviewed for Johnson& Johnson, did you
Yes.
have to know those terms, or tell us about how did you have to study for it, or what
Yeah.
were the questions like?
So, yes. So it's funny that you say that now. I was just talking to one of the girls who's new on my team. She's going into Sales School 201, and we were just talking about proximal tibia fractures and all this stuff too. And she was like, "How do you know that much?" And I was like, "Girl, I've been in this industry a long time." But no, I knew none of it. It's not a requirement. I think starting at J&J, they were just looking for you to have tenacity, be a hard worker. Usually a lot of kids were business majors, but there were some that were science majors who wanted to go into the business side of things too. So no, I wouldn't necessarily say that I knew, and I wasn't quizzed on any anatomy. I think there too, and now being on a lot of interview panels in my role now, we're not looking for anybody to have any idea. We're not asking any questions on body parts at all. We're looking more for work ethic and character and experience too, more than anything else. Like, are you going to work hard? Are you a good person? And are you smart, inherently an intelligent person that can pick it up? Because it is hard stuff. So do we think that you can learn it? And that's it. But you don't need to know what a tibia is. We'll teach it to you.
Yeah, true. That's good.
No, truly, thank God, or else the pool would be small. But I think like you can't teach a work ethic, right? You can teach somebody how to sell, you can teach somebody anatomy, but you can't teach a work ethic.
Yeah, I feel like Stryker or Johnson& Johnson also as well obviously hires students from like really good schools too.
Yes.
So I feel like okay, they're probably in the back of their head like if they can get through Wake Forest and get into Wake Forest, they can obviously teach themselves and have a good desire for learning
Right.
as well. So they probably cross that off the list.
Right. And like what are the intangibles that are like impossible to teach? Like I
Yeah.
can't, pardon my language, but I can't teach you to give a shit, but I can teach you a
Yeah.
lot of other things.
Yeah, true. Do you care?
I do care about this.
Yeah. Okay, so Johnson& Johnson, you're in the program and in Cincinnati. So I know eventually you ended up going to Stryker, but talk about your
Yeah.
time at Johnson& Johnson and then the roles you had there.
Sure. So I did this rotational program for 14 months. Looking back, it was awesome to be able to learn different parts of the industry too. I think that's very unique that Ethicon has, so I thought it was a great learning program. So you go through a bunch of different training. So you go through different competitions. I had done well, so I was placed in the biggest opportunity area. They were about to have a big conversion at this hospital. It was a big teaching institution, big opportunity, lots of upside, and they needed a really smart associate to help. That
Kim
place,
Lauren.
thank you. It was like you were Top Gun, you're going to this like Mecca. The Mecca was Madison, Wisconsin. And my dad brought me there to look for an apartment and literally was like, "Do you know where this is on the map?" And I said, "I have no idea where this
Your
is."
apartment though, wasn't it pretty cool? Like it was like industrial or
It
am I
was super cool. Yeah.
yeah. I mean sure, Madison looked fun to me. Wintertime, not as fun.
So Madison was like actually a very cool town. I was like right on the state capitol. UW was right there. I was right on the capitol. The hospital, I had a good partner, or not partner, but like senior rep who was there. And it was a good town. I really enjoyed it. It was very far from home. I didn't know anyone there. Like literally did not know a soul from Wisconsin
Yeah.
or surrounding states.
What are those surrounding? No, I'm just kidding.
No, literally Minnesota.
Yeah. I'm in Minnesota.
But I learned a lot, right? Like I worked basically all the time because I didn't have anything else to do. And my office was an operating room. And I got to learn because I wasn't as a associate, so they call them like ASRs or associate sales reps. And I think if you're looking at getting into medical devices, if you can't get into like a training or rotational program, that is like the best way to get into medical devices because you are under a senior rep who's probably been there for a long time, so they need an associate. Sales is, depending on the company you work for, but sales is a commission-based job. So you are hunting and killing and eating all what you're doing yourself. So unless you like really know how to sell or like really know that territory that you're in, that is really hard. And so as an associate, you're coming in, they put you on a salary. It's very small, but you have a salary so you can pay your rent, you can pay your bills, and usually your bonus at the end of the year based on how well your senior rep does. So it's the best way to like get in. You're usually just covering cases. You're usually not selling and cold calling. You're just covering the easier cases so your senior rep can do the harder cases or do the cold calling. You're basically freeing them up.
Yeah.
So you get the idea of like what an OR is all about, like the dynamics of an operating room in a hospital. So it's the best way to start in medical devices, I think.
Yeah, because quota-wise, it's more team-based, I guess, because you have the senior rep that you're kind of tied to.
Well, the senior rep is associated with a quota. You're basically just on the salary that the company is giving you.
You only have your end of year bonus.
Yeah, only your end of year bonus based on how your senior rep does, but your salary that you're paid per month or every 2 weeks, whatever, is from the company.
Okay, but good way to get your foot in the door.
And you just learn a ton. You see if you like it. And I think it's really important in medical devices to like actually carry the bag, build relationships with surgeons. Like, are you able to talk to them? Do you know how to sell? Do you know how to talk to the nursing staff? Everybody in the hospital is important. So this way you can like practice without not being able to make your rent payment or your mortgage payment or something if you're not good at it.
So it's funny that, okay, we're gonna take a total step back. But when you could have been working at Oracle, which is like tech sales, and then you ended up at Johnson & Johnson. But I mean, I'm in tech sales, so I only know selling to engineers or CTOs and stuff like that. But what would you describe the personality like of a doctor or a surgeon, or like trying to sell to a surgeon? Like, are they super fickle? Are they like, is the sales cycle really long? Like once they pick someone, it's for months and months, or what would you say?
Okay, so I love where we're going with this. So it is, I used to sell, because I'm not in sales anymore. Let's say I'm a sales rep. My selling process versus your selling process is very different. So we don't like, when I was for this Oracle job, it was a lot of like calling on the phone and like crossing people, like cold calling and stuff like that, but like on the phone. So you're safe. There's no call or online version of medical device sales at all. It is all in person. And
Yeah.
so if you are trying to build your business or in cold calling, because that's what I did when I had a territory for Stryker. It was a lot of like cold calling. I was cold calling in person. So I would drive around Raleigh, North Carolina, and I would see a spine and pain facility. And I said, they probably do what I'm looking for. I would pull off, I would go into the office and I would say, hi, can I have I would Google them quickly, find out the doctor's name. I would go in, I would say a prayer, go in that the lady at the desk was nice, and they usually weren't. And I would say, can I please have a meeting with Dr. Because I think that like this will help them. And they would usually tell me to kick rocks, but sometimes I would get lucky and I would be able to have a meeting. And then I would have to come back in a week, buy a lunch for the entire office, walk in and pray that the surgeon actually did come to talk to me.
Okay.
If it went really well, then the surgeon would talk to me and say, sure, I'll try that. Can you bring it to Williams Hospital and we'll try it together?
Okay.
And so this was like mostly what I sold. This isn't orthopedic implants. This is more like instruments. So this was like I could bring a disposable with me into a hospital. So I would go to the hospital. I was usually had been there in the past, so like I knew the drill, but I would go to the hospital. I would go to the operating room. I would bring it. I would look at the schedule. I would see the surgeon, talk to them before, do like a quick demo. If I couldn't do it beforehand, ideally you would do a demo with them beforehand so they know what they're talking about. Sometimes it doesn't go in your favor. So you're going into the OR, you have it there, and you are the consultant in the room. So you are telling them what the sizes are, you're looking at the x-rays with the surgeon, and you're saying, hey, in my opinion, based on what I've seen in the past, like here's what I would do. Granted, the surgeon, they know what they're doing 100%, but you know your product better and you've seen a lot, so you can like provide some guidance on sizes and technique and stuff like that. But you're like, their trusted advisor. That's like the sales cycle for what I did. So there was no.
Who are you typically competing against in that scenario? Like whoever they have an instrument already from? And are there a lot of competitors?
So now fast forward to kind of, we'll do like the industry that I'm in. That was like instruments for Stryker. Now I'm more in orthopedic implants, but we have like a couple of different competitors. We have a big competitor and like small ankle biters, but we mainly kind of focus on the big competitor. So if it's not me in the room, it's Joe Schmo who is taking on my business and I can't stand him. So it's usually one of us who's in
Where
the
like
room.
Ethicon or
So now I would be like plate to plate, so I would, or nail to nail. So it would be me versus Johnson and Johnson, but a different division now. So it's
okay.
J&J MedTech now. Different than what I used to sell because I was on like instruments. This is more orthopedics. So it's a company called like DePuy Synthes. But so if it's not me, it's my competitor, and we know of each other, and we've probably like had words with each other, but it's me or him.
Yeah.
And so now it's like your surgeon is doing like a variety of different cases. And sometimes if he likes your product, he'll use you for one little thing. So that was one version of a sales cycle. So you cold call, you do well, she likes your stuff. He tells you to come back. Then now you have like a little subsect of the business. How do you expand that to your full portfolio? So then how do you go from, okay, he uses me for this nail. Now how does he use me for this external fixation? How does he use me now for this plate? And like how do I build out all of his business to use me? So that's a sales cycle of the relationship between the rep and the surgeon. Another one that's like very different with this day and age is contracting with hospital groups.
Okay.
That's a tough one too. I didn't really deal with that much when I was a sales rep, but that's a whole nother avenue with like C-suite, purchasing, GPOs. Like, sure, the surgeon likes your stuff, but is your pricing good for the entire hospital group? That's a whole nother avenue that reps these days.
Yeah, that one
These
seems
days are dealing
like that one seems almost like a lot of admin too, like contracting and probably just slow, like working with hospitals.
A
But
lot of times though now companies, not to like scare anybody from that either, a lot of companies like we have an entire strategic sales team that helps the sales force with that. So the idea is that our sales force can really focus on the surgeon and the staff and the implants and like having surgeries go well. And then when they need the contracting conversation, they can bring other people in for it so they can stay focused on that. So that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. That makes
It's too
sense,
much.
Stryker. Good idea.
It's too much. Like that would be
Smart.
crazy.
Okay, so I know we went off on a tangent, but I was like super interested because I never really asked that question.
No, the sales cycle is like it's interesting to see the sales cycles of different industries, like how people
Yeah,
make sales.
and also just like personality types of who you're
Yes,
selling to. So if
yes.
I'm talking to
I
like,
didn't answer that.
yeah, well, yeah, if I'm talking to like a founder or something, they're like super fast, go, go, go. If you're
Yeah.
talking to a larger company, it's like an engineer, they're more just in the nitty gritty on the tech. But like for you, a surgeon, like, so Greg was my, like, his dad is a doctor,
Mhm.
and then like
Yeah.
Molly's husband is a doctor. So it's just like different personalities in a sense.
It is very different personalities. It also depends, which is interesting, on the type of surgeon too. So, yes, so a lot of orthopedic surgeons are usually ex-athletes, so they care about the implants a ton. So you have to know your product. You don't just have to know your product really well, but you need to know your procedure really well too. You need to know
Mm,
what's going on. Do you have the experience? If you're in the operating room with them, can they trust you
yeah.
to bring in the right stuff and all of that? So, but I would say orthopedic surgeons, for the most part, they're fun to hang out with. They have short attention spans because they need to be
Yeah.
in and out. They're busy. They're usually running multiple rooms at once. So short attention spans, etc. I would say in my old role, I sold to a lot of neurosurgeons
Mm,
who are extremely detail oriented. So if they wanted to know the amount of cement that came out of a cannula to the millimeter, you needed to know it or else you lost 100% credibility. So I think a big part of any of these roles you go into, whether it's J&J, Stryker, any medical device, they really train you on procedure and product really well because you're going to be put into a situation with very smart people. Like these surgeons were in school for at least 15 years to get to where they are, and they're smart, and they have, at the end of the day, they have people's lives on the line. So they're not like being mean. Like they literally need to know this kind of stuff.
yeah,
Sometimes they
that
like
is
to be mean
so
to us too, to let out frustration. That's
maybe
like
just
a
like a
joke.
little jab here and there, but like it's like
Everything is always the rep's fault,
yeah. Oh yeah.
but it's justified because you have somebody's life on the line, so you need to know
Yeah,
this.
this is like very high pressure. I mean,
Very high
sometimes
pressure.
like sales is so high pressure that literally we will tell each other like on our team, it's like, look, we're not like saving lives here. Like it's gonna be okay. Everyone take a deep breath. And then for you, it's like, no, no.
Yeah.
I need to know the answer to this question.
I think it's really cool too, the transition between sales and marketing. So a lot of people that I work with in marketing at Stryker were sales reps. The flow between sales and marketing is pretty fluid, I would say. Granted, you make a lot more money in sales than you do in marketing. I think it's well deserved also,
Yeah.
but you make a lot more money in sales, but the flow between the two is pretty fluid, for lack of better words, I would say. And it's awesome to see marketers who sold because they get it. Like, if we get a call from a rep saying, like, hey, I'm in here and I need this, like, they respond like that. Or, like, they drop everything to help because we do realize, like, we sit in our ivory castle and, like, read emails or try to, like, get things done. But these guys, like, they're in an operating room with a surgeon who's about to bite their head off if they don't know the answer. So, like, it's cool to have that perspective when you come into marketing. So that's why for any young person going into medical devices, I always say, like, try to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. No, sales is like a characteristic or experience you can't really teach until you're just thrown in.
No, totally. And it builds character.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I think it's Ivory Tower, not Ivory Castle.
What did I say?
Ivory Castle. I
Okay, but
mean, I'll
what's in
take
a
a whole.
castle?
I'll take a castle over a tower.
It, it 100% is an ivory tower. Thank you so much.
No, I love it. Honestly, sometimes with those phrases, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going for it.
Well, sometimes when you're in the middle of the phrase, you're just like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
don't know how to get out of this instead of through it. So here
You're
I
like, I know
go.
it's a structure, it might be a home.
You know it's
Okay.
ivory.
So yeah, it's Ivory though, either way. So you just alluded to moving from sales to marketing.
Hmm.
But before diving into that, when you were at Johnson Johnson, and then what made you decide you wanted to make the move to Stryker? Just dive into that.
So I think every company has unique personalities, kind of any kind of company too. It's not just
Yeah.
necessarily medical devices, but every company has their personality and what they're known for and what kind of people work there too. And I enjoyed J&J, but I knew I wanted to get back to Stryker. I
Hmm.
really liked Stryker's, very competitive. Like the growth numbers are huge at Stryker year over year. I knew other Stryker reps in hospitals and I just really liked them. Like they had this grit and this power behind them. And as a very impressionable 23-year-old, 24-year-old, I was like, that's what I want to be like.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool too. So I was like, I want to be like a Stryker rep, and I still wasn't like over Stryker, so or, sorry, over being in sales. And I
Mm.
wanted to have my own territory. So when I was looking at interviewing for jobs to have a territory, I decided to interview for Stryker only roles so I could get back to Stryker. So I interviewed for a job in North Carolina because I had gone to school there and I had friends there. Um, and got a role with my own territory. I had a partner who I worked with who had been in the industry for a really long time, who was just, you've met him. He's amazing. He was the best. He was like my best buddy and like really taught me a lot about how to sell. And I remember interviewing, and we kind of alluded to this, so I'll do it quickly, but I remember interviewing and he'd be like, my manager was like, you've never had a territory, so don't sit here and tell me you know how to sell, but I can tell you have a work ethic. And that I can't teach a work ethic, I can teach you how to sell. And so I've always remembered that as I'm interviewing people now too. The last person I hired had a lot less experience than some other people, but I liked her work ethic. And so
Yeah.
I always remember what that guy said to me.
Well, okay, so during that interview, how did you show that you had work ethic? Like, or how do you see it now?
I've
Yeah.
always really liked the question, tell me about it. This is cliche,
Yeah.
but tell me about a time that you failed and how did you fix it? Or tell me environments you thrive under. And I like when people take accountability when they failed and said, I really messed this up. And here's what I learned from it. And here's how I've never done it again.
Mm,
And I really like that.
yeah.
I really don't like when people say, like, oh, this happened to me. And here's how I fixed it and saved the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, well, bad things happen to all of us, but what did you mess up because you just didn't know something? And like, I like
Yeah.
the accountability part of it.
Yeah, there's also like you see those stories sometimes where someone messes up and it might be like big time. Like you literally see it in the news or whatever, and then their manager's like, they still have their job. Because I've heard before, it's like that's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to them, and you can guarantee 110% it'll never happen again because like they would never let it happen again. So,
And the biggest things you learn from, I think, are your mistakes that you've made. You could do all the right things in the world and you're not going to remember what you did right necessarily, other than the glory, but you will remember when you screwed something up and you forgot to bring that one cannula into that one case and you lost the entire thing because it broke in the patient and you got sent out and somebody else got sent in.
mm,
See, that happened to me when I was 24 years old, and I never forgot it. And now I will never do anything without backup.
yeah,
Like, do I have a backup thing in case the worst case scenario happens? Do I have that? And so you don't. So I try to ask for those questions and just to hear about like what they like to do for fun. Like, do they like to like play sports, or do they like to like what do they do? Does it show that they have like a strong sense of self and like respect for themselves and respect for others? I think is important too.
okay. No,
Do they have
yeah,
hobbies?
I liked all that.
Like hobbies? Like, what's your hobby?
I know, like, what do you do? I don't
Yeah,
know.
what do you do? What's a
I
hobby?
try and survive my day. So let's say, okay, so you got the job at Stryker, you had your own territory.
Mhm.
How long were you a rep for, and then when did you decide that you wanted to move into marketing?
So I was a rep for 3 years. I really enjoyed it. I had an unbelievable team. My partner, my manager, everybody was great. I learned so much. I also learned that I'm not a career salesperson. So even though the money was great and the flexibility in my schedule, flexibility, Like you're not working a 9 to 5, you're putting scrubs on, like all of that is great. I love the accountability part of it. I'm not a lifelong salesperson.
Yeah.
I would get uncomfortable cold calling. I knew that that wasn't for me. And also my degree was in marketing, so I knew that I wanted to get back to it. Do you remember when we started this conversation and I was like, I really liked the creative marketing part of it. I wasn't doing any of that. Like
Yeah.
it was only relationships, which is great, but I knew I wanted to get back to like what I loved. So after a couple of years, I started looking at marketing positions and found a or a field marketing manager, but like basically like a product manager role in the orthopedics division. And so I came over and I've been here for like 5.5 years in this role, different functions. Yeah. And I love it. They call it downstream marketing. I had no idea what upstream and downstream was. Maybe people do now, but I'm in
Yeah.
something called downstream marketing, which is all products that we've launched and we commercialize. So I work with like surgeons, sales reps. We commercialize products. We put pricing for our different products. We kind of market it and bring it to fruition. And I think it's like an unbelievable balance of like strategy, creativity, advertising, and selling, because we still are selling every day. So I think it's like a nice blend of all of it.
So you say you looked internally, you saw the product marketing, product management role. How did you tee yourself up for that interview and applying and get your foot in the door and, take off from there?
Yeah, so I had seen the role open, and then I reached out to somebody who I had an internship with when I was in college, who I knew was not a part of that role at all, but in the office. And at the end of the day, it's a big company, but it's a small network. Everybody really knows everybody. So I had reached out to her. I said I was really interested in coming back into marketing and that I had been selling for however many years it was at that point. And what's really nice is that Stryker really, really values sales experience. So if you're a sales rep looking to come in and you're willing to take a pay cut, they would love to have you because they know your work ethic. They know all the things we talked about above.
Yeah. And
So
like you've been in the field, like you get the questions that are asked of you, different things like that.
exactly. And like I sold something completely different, but they just kind of like knew that I like had it in me. So I interviewed, of course, but then I got hired and yeah, and then I didn't remember really anything from school about marketing, but it's the same thing whether you're selling or in marketing. Like we and your managers teach you everything that you need to know. Granted, it's great if you have a marketing background because you understand how to commercialize a product, you understand like targeting, segmentation, the 4 Ps, all of like those essential like marketing excellence things. But if you don't have it, we'll teach it to you. We'll put you through like marketing excellence training, big picture training. We'll put you through all of that stuff so you learn it so you're ready to launch your own products.
And now you have a team, right? So you hire people, you look at resumes, different things like that. So if someone is listening and they want just advice as to how to stand out from the crowd in a sense, what kind of advice would you give there?
So first of all, for anybody who's interviewing for a role like this, I number one just commend you for listening to this podcast because I think any pearls that you can hear, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but pearls you can hear, people that you look up to, listen to their stories because nobody has like a straight trajectory. Like everybody's kind of has their own unique thing. So whether you're graduating from college or you're looking at making a career change, I just commend you for like taking the first step to learning more about it. For you looking to get into something like this, I would say look at what's available and then try to reach out to the hiring manager. A lot of times, the last role that I had open, I had like 75 people apply to it. And it goes through recruiters first and etc. But I would look through the list. But who really stood out to me were people who like wrote me a note or said something to me that was like very endearing, like, hey, I really want this position, and just tried to take they were more than just a resume. So anything that you can do to like make a phone call or put an email address together, find somebody. I think the personal touch makes you more than a resume. And so I really, really encourage that.
I know we've talked about this before, but you don't use LinkedIn, right? It's like an industry type thing that you guys don't use LinkedIn as much.
So our recruiters use LinkedIn. So I've
Okay.
looked at this, I've looked into this since the last time we spoke. Because I think I was really off.
Like, am I supposed to be using LinkedIn?
So I think, yes. So I've looked into it since we last spoke. So our recruiter, so Stryker recruiters, we
Hmm.
have like our own internal recruitment team use LinkedIn.
Okay. No, that
So they
makes total sense.
So they put like they post roles that they have open and then they'll tag the hiring. So here's some great advice too. So
Mm.
they'll, if you follow those job boards, they'll tag the hiring manager. And so for example, they'll do the post, I'll be tagged, and then I'll repost it on my board or my LinkedIn. And so that's a great way of like a new hire or somebody who wants a role to look and be like, oh, that's the hiring manager. That's who I should reach out to.
Yeah.
And then email me. Like some people probably look at messages. Most people probably don't, I would say. So try to reach out to them somehow. We're not huge on LinkedIn, but we try our best.
I feel like that's good advice though, because a lot of times, like if people are looking for a job, just follow recruiters from that company because you're
Yeah,
right, like they post those roles.
they
It's
do.
not like you go searching through jobs on, the job tab on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
you're just like scrolling through jobs. It's like follow the recruiters, make
Mhm.
sure you connect with them. They'll post in real time when jobs become available, so then you could be one of the first ones to apply and then
And
message.
exactly. And if you, so my number one advice would be try to reach out to the hiring manager and just say, like, hi, I'm really interested in this role for X, Y, and Z. Try to make a personal connection. If you can't figure out how to get in touch with the hiring manager, try to reach out to the recruiter themselves. Don't just apply to a role and then just hope for the best
Yeah.
because recruiters will also come to me and say, like, hey, this person seems really interested. Like, they've reached out to me a bunch. And then they go to the top of my list too because they're trying. And like in this, whether it's marketing or sales or anything, it's all about your personality. And do you put yourself out
Yeah.
there? Will you talk to a surgeon? Will you talk to a sales rep? Like, can you be put in a tough situation and handle it? And you know what a hard situation is? Getting a job.
Yeah.
So like if you put in that effort, that comes to us like, oh, that's the kind of person I'm looking for. Like they have tenacity.
True. Now,
So,
like, do you take that first step? You
mhm,
just go the extra mile.
right.
Lovely. Okay, so last question I want to leave off
Okay.
on. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given about, being in business and being in a role? And then what's one piece of advice you would give everyone?
Okay, the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, which I go back and forth if this is the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, but I liked it so, and I think it's
If
done me
it
well.
worked for you, it worked for you.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
My dad, when I was graduating college, always said to me like, you do whatever you can for your career. Like you go wherever you can. My dad moved to Saudi Arabia when he had graduated college for a role, and he was like, you move, you're young, you don't have anything else to do, like just
Yeah.
move for the role and everything else will work out. Like don't just move to New York or Charlotte or wherever for your role. And I went through a few years of hating that advice because I was living in crazy places. But I
Yeah.
think the reason why I like it now looking back is because I've been thinking about this a lot as I've been talking to a lot of interns here. And they're taking risks by moving to New Jersey for the summer or moving different places for their career. And there's no better time to do it when you're young.
Yeah.
Like you don't have any responsibilities for the most part. You don't really, probably don't own a home. Like you can take a lot of risk. And I really, really encourage that for any people like starting out in their career. Like take the risk,
Yeah.
move to the weird city, take the job that you're kind of scared to take. You don't know if you'll be great at it, but like take the risk when you're young because when you're our age and you have more bills and more responsibility, you'll always regret not doing it and trying it. And you don't want to ever live with regret. I've been mad at my dad a lot for that advice sometimes when I was young and I was living in Madison, Wisconsin. But now I look back and I'm grateful for that advice. So thank you, Dad.
That's good.
The advice I would give to other people is be your own best advocate and never sell yourself short. So I think a lot of times women always feel like you need the most experience and you have to be 110% ready for a role before you do it. And you don't. I think there's a study out there that says that men interview or apply for roles that they feel like they're 70% ready for, and
Hmm.
women apply or wait till they're 100% ready for that role before they apply to it. Like we need to get to more of the 70%. And the reason why I say that is when I'm interviewing, and I interview a lot of people, and I know people who interview for a lot of people, and it's different when you're looking at a C-suite role. I'm talking about like entry levels or your second role or your third role out of school.
Yeah.
You don't sell yourself short because you might not have the perfect experience, or the job board says you need 7 years of experience but you only have 5. Interview for the job and put yourself out there, because we're not looking for the most experience. We're not looking for the perfect resume. We're looking for the person that we can mold into this role. Because I've said this 100 times, like we can teach you product, marketing, sales, how to tap dance on your head. Like we can teach you all of that stuff, but we can't teach you to be a good person, to have good relationships, to work hard, to give a shit. Like we can't teach that. And that's the first thing that will show if you're not ready for a role. And you're in a role, like if you don't show up to work at 8 a.m. or you're not willing to stay on a weekend until 6 p.m. and pack up, like that's the first thing that will show. So that's my advice. Like, work hard and it'll pay off, but like don't sell yourself short and just work freaking damn hard and it will work out for you.
I like it. We're like ending on a hoorah. Like,
Yeah, we got.
10
I
4,
mean,
Captain.
if we don't hoorah ourselves, who the heck is going to?
I know, honestly, true. Yeah, hoorah yourself.
Come on, if you don't have a Phoebe or a you in your life, like who's gonna hoorah you? I
Well,
love it.
thank you, Lauren. I love the advice and I love the story. So thanks for sharing everything.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for putting this whole thing together. I think all of us need a podcast like this, so thank you.